is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Dark Tower, Book 6, Song of Susannah, Stanza 9, Eddie bites his tongue until it bleeds. In this episode, Miles and I discuss how much I kind of wish Eddie had killed Calvin Tower. Just a little. Just a little kill him. Just kill him a tiny bit. Welcome to Unspoiled. Just a, you know, like, kind of kill him.
Just a tidbit of the killing.
This guy, oh man, Stephen knew how to write an infuriating man.
Oh man.
I'm wondering if this is based on somebody that he knows, you know?
It must be, right? Doesn't it feel that way?
It has to be.
Yeah.
It almost feels like he met somebody who was so infuriating that he felt the need to write in a character that was like this in order to have an outlet for how enraged that person made him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like it was like a therapy.
Exactly, you know? Yeah. Because, oh boy, I just hate him so much. I hate him so much.
Yeah,
and I love the detail. I'm getting ahead of myself here. My apologies.
Yeah, go for it.
I do really love the detail of Eddie being like, maybe I hate him because he's a slave to something he's obsessed with like I was, and I totally know what that's like, and I like despise myself for it.
Yeah.
Because that feels relatable.
Yeah, especially given what Eddie deals with and recognizes that he's dealing with in this chapter. Mm-hmm. Which you were worried about last time, as I recall.
Yes. I was. I'm glad that he felt a little bit like if Roland hadn't been there, you know, like
yeah,
Eddie.
This is a proud of Eddie chapter for me.
Yes.
There have been a few of them, but this is a fuck yeah Eddie Dean chapter.
Fuck yeah Eddie Dean.
Anyway, speaking of getting ahead of ourselves, my name is Miles.
And I'm Natasha.
And I've read these books.
And I haven't.
Yeah.
Until now.
Wow, we were really good on that one. That was good. That was good. I like the way you did that. It was nice and smooth, you know?
I need to get like a little soundboard on my phone that will play stingers like that. Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, this chapter was... First of all, I'm glad I gave myself a ton of time to read it because it was very long. But it was really... I was going to say satisfying, which is not quite true because Eddie does not, in fact, kill Calvin Tower, which would have been the actual satisfying thing.
That would have been the most satisfying thing.
It really would. But it feels like so much got done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I really liked the whole vibe of the conversation that they have, and there's just so much that goes down that I'm like, while he doesn't get to live out his ridiculous impulse, which is a shame, I do really appreciate that things work out here without it feeling like there was an intervention of fate. It just feels like four people trying their damnedest to be fucking grown-ups about everything, you know?
Yeah. I agree. It's nice because, like, at the beginning of this chapter, John Cullum takes off, who felt very much like, and they even mention it, like, they have a name for, like, people like him, the little savior, the Dantet.
Yeah.
And he feels so much as we like him, he feels so much like a deus ex machina. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice that the moment he leaves, we get this very human series of interactions.
Yeah, I I do wonder about that weird behavior though that got Eddie suspicious when he was like, "Yeah, go up to New Hampshire." I'm like, "What's that about, buddy?"
I
I
mean,
feel like he's not going to do that and he's going to turn up somewhere. But, you know, I'm also like wildly suspicious of everybody in all books and TV shows at this point after covering everything I've covered over the years.
yeah, seriously, somebody should do a psychological study on you to just see like what it does to a person.
Yeah, I feel like there are so many things that caught me by surprise in older episodes of Unspoiled that now I would see coming from a mile away.
I was just gonna ask you, like, are you surprised very often anymore by books and television?
There are some things that can constantly surprise. I mean, the beginning of this series surprised me a lot because he did weird things that were so much more direct in some ways than I expected. Like, you know, especially drawing of the three, just like, open a door and go into somebody's head and just be in New York not knowing what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
That surprised me. Orphan Black does a lot of surprising stuff. Not always in a good way, but often.
Damn, I want to watch that show. Ugh.
That show, like, Owen and I were talking about that show today, and he goes, and the actress who plays Allison, and then he had to stop himself and be like, oh my god, it's the same actress that plays all of them. Why did I just do that? And I'm like, because she's unbelievable, and you think of her as a different person. I was like, I totally knew what you meant when you said, like, I got exactly what you were saying, because she's just so goddamn good.
Nice.
I'm trying to think, because I know that there was something else recently that was full of surprises, and I was just like, god damn it, because it kept doing that, and now I don't even remember what it was. What did I recently finish covering? There was Twin Peaks, but let's not get into that.
That would be our whole podcast.
Oh my god. But yeah, there are some things that manage to still surprise me. It's just that, you know what it was? The fucking Leftovers. Oh my god. That show. I cannot. That show was one surprise after another. It was edge of your seat, what the fuck are you doing kind of surprises. And that was a really fun show. So yeah, it can still happen. It's just they have to be really good, pretty much, you know?
Yeah.
And luckily, I have discerning enough listeners that most of the time, when I start to get a lot of recommendations for something, it is one of those kinds of shows or books that it does surprise still, despite everything.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good listeners.
They are.
They're pretty good.
And they all were the ones who kept on pushing me to cover Westworld, and I'm on episode 3 of that damn show, and it's unbelievable. So, you know, they're right, I guess. Have you watched Westworld, Miles?
No, are you kidding me? I haven't seen so many things.
Oh my god.
We were talking about going to this convention. Sharon and I were in Denver. And I looked over the list of people, and I was like, hey, you realize that if we go to this thing, we're finally going to have to watch, like, an episode of Stranger Things, right?
Just... There's so much that I'm just like, what would you even think if you walked into it without knowing? I mean, there's plenty I'm sure you absorb just from memes and shit being everywhere.
Not really. I mean, honestly, like, I have very little idea of what that show is about. I've managed to mostly avoid spoilers on it. Like, I know a couple of names, but no, I don't get the memes. I don't really care. I don't look into it. I don't pay attention. So, and every time I see something about it, I kind of ignore it and move on. So, yeah, I have gotten some, like, clues dropped on me unexpectedly, but fortunately I just don't have enough context to be able to put anything together on that.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, so, and, like when I say that things don't surprise me, it's not really, like, fair, because, like I said, there are plenty of things that, but, there are certain things that you just, either you see coming, or you just read so fucking much into them, that even if what you thought it meant isn't what happens, you're still not really surprised, because you were just waiting for something.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, we'll see what's going on with him, but I'm a little bit concerned about that. I don't know.
All right, well let's start at the beginning of this chapter, which begins with John Cullum showing Roland and Eddie where Cal Tower and Aaron Deepnow have holed up. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's a series of cabins called Jafford's Rentals. Mm-hmm. And of course, it is cabin 19.
OMG, of course it is.
So they get there, and Roland looks at Eddie. This is before they get out of the car. They've been following Cullum. And Roland's like, so the dangerous thing here is you know that, right? Because you want to kill the guy already.
Yeah, I really appreciate that he can recognize that, because once you step back and really, and that's what King takes pains to do here, is like, he reminds us how Father Callahan came in and wrote this note, how doing that was extremely dangerous, and that Eddie almost died so that he could deliver that message. The fact that Eddie had stepped in himself earlier and like pushed Tower to do this whole thing, like all of the things that they have risked personally in order to get this asshole out of New York alive, and he could give a shit. Like, oh man, I was already infuriated with this guy last episode. I was like, just kill him, finally, just fucking do it. But this episode was really, this chapter rather, was really the one where I was just like, oh, this. And what killed me is that even after everything is done, he's still trying to argue about how he doesn't have to go anywhere.
Oh man,
even
I know.
After,
I know.
At that point, I'm just like, just let him stay then. Let him die. Who cares?
Yeah,
you have
this
the
point,
lot now.
Yeah.
That's on him.
And the comparisons between Tower and Eddie start right here at the beginning. Mm-hmm. When Roland tells Eddie before they get out of the car, look, when I first met you, you were a little shit, and I didn't kill you. So you can hold yourself back from killing this guy.
That was the best. Like, I'm trying to think of how I would feel if somebody said that shit to me, and it would just be devastating. You know, just like, well, you know, you are also, you know, you have a history of being trash, and yet I'm still your friend.
Right,
so
right.
maybe, and I'd just be like, God damn, harsh. That's just kind of mean, Roland. But he's not wrong.
Oh man, people have, at least one person in my life has actually said that to me, basically.
Really?
And they were right, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, they were like, well, you know, I didn't need to still be friends with you after that one thing. And I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah, alright.
So, yeah.
But yeah, so and I love how this chapter, we'll see it as it keeps going, but I love how this chapter is like very much Eddie kind of staring a different version of himself in the face and being like, you piece of shit.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. And I love that Eddie constantly is wanting Roland to step in, because he wants to be able to lose it a little bit. He wants to have somebody else be responsible for keeping him in line. And Roland is completely aware, I'm sure, that that's what Eddie wants, and is unwilling to play that fucking game, because you are an adult and you can control your own damn self.
Yeah, and it's great because Roland keeps telling Eddie, and Eddie knows, like, hey, you're going to have to, like, bite your tongue, right?
Right.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, just making sure.
I lost you earlier, too, so we're off to a fine start here.
Indeed. But in the end...
Yeah, so...
Sorry, I was talking over you.
No, you weren't talking over me. I stopped because you started to talk, and then I completely lost you.
Oh, fun.
We are both... Okay. What I was going to say was that they pull in, and one of the things that Callahan had told him to do was to leave their forwarding address either under the passenger side mat of the car, which they were supposed to abandon, or leave it like under the back step and get the fuck out of Dodge, which they obviously did not do. And not only did they not do that, like, he moves for 2 days with Aaron down to the boathouse. And I love that Aaron tries to be like, well, let me move down there for a couple days. And then he has to be like, well, one day. Like, he wants to be loyal to his friend, but he also realizes that his friend is an idiot.
Yeah, which is also great, because it's like a reckoning for him, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I love the way Deep No talks to Tower in this scene.
Yes.
You know, it's such a relief that this guy who was, like, before Tower showed up, he's making excuses for the guy. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways. And now he's just like, you know what? Fuck you. Just do it. Because he sees how much of an asshole Tower is being.
Exactly. And I think that this is such a valuable thing. Like, everybody needs someone in their life who is willing to call them on their shit. Whether that be, like, your romantic partner or just a really close friend or a family member, but often that's tainted, so that's not usually as effective. But we all need somebody who is not afraid to be like, you know and I know that you are full of shit right now, and here are 7 reasons why. And I had a friend like that, and we wound up getting in this horrible fight right before I wound up splitting up with Brendan. And we became friends again. I messaged her and was like, hey, so you were right about everything, and everything is stupid and terrible. And she was like, oh my God, I was totally about to message you like yesterday because you were right about everything and everything is stupid and terrible. And I was like, well, aren't we great?
Yeah, those are great moments. We should quickly, before we move on to the meat of this chapter, just mention what you mentioned earlier, which is that they tell John Cullum, all right, John, time to take off, and don't tell us where you're going. And he's like, well, yeah, I got a friend in Vermont. They're like, don't tell us, John.
Yeah.
And then it ends with, like, Eddie getting this weird feeling that Cullum's lying to them or not going to do what he says he's going to do. And the section ends with him deciding it's just paranoia, simple paranoia. Eddie put it out of his mind. So, you know, that's probably wrapped up, right? I
feel like Cullum is too goddamn old to just pick up and leave. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. I don't care how, like... I'm just trying to think, if I'm a bachelor, he hasn't got family, he hasn't got kids, he hasn't got anybody that's dependent on him. And he's made his whole life here. And a very sweet little life, to be honest, you know?
Yeah.
If I were him, I'd kind of be like, you know what? If it's my time, then I guess it's my time, because I am not going to just run away. That's not the type of dude he is, I don't feel. So I would not be surprised if he turns up dead, because that feels like how this book is going to go.
And like you said, he's an older guy, so it might feel a little bit like less of an immediate threat to him. It's like, well, I've lived a life, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, Tower and Deep No paid lip service to the instructions they were given, and then proceeded to ignore them.
God.
We learned this from Deep No because he's the only one there when Roland and Eddie show up. And to his credit, he's being super careful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when he sees they've arrived, he, like, has a gun, even though it's not loaded.
Bless him. Loaded guns make me nervous. Yeah, all right.
I mean, look, they make me nervous too, buddy, but I'm not in your situation, so I can afford to be nervous about that kind of thing.
Being nervous is supposed to be part of the point. Loaded guns make lots of people nervous, and they should, and that's the power of them.
That's why you have one.
Yeah.
He like is watching them as they come up, and they have to kind of tell him their names, and before he'll finally trust them, then he lets them inside, and they start chatting. Now, in contrast, again, not to skip ahead too far, when Tower shows up, the thing that
This motherfucker
really pisses Eddie off is that when Tower shows up, he doesn't think about doing anything.
Nothing.
He's
This
like,
asshole pulls in, sees a strange car in the parking lot. Does he seem to quicken his pace or shout, Aaron, is everything all right? Or appear to for it to even have entered his mind that something could potentially be wrong? No.
Something's on fire across the lake.
And he looks
barely
and shrugs.
notices. Yeah. So
I hate him so much.
we also learned that Tower was really the one who talked Deep No into moving back into the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he was partially going off a reaction to the tone of Callahan's letter, which Cal Tower, funny name difference there again. Tower apparently doesn't enjoy being taken to the woodshed, as Deep No puts it, which, man, that sucks for him.
Right.
And then he talked Deep No back in there, and he said that nobody could find them. Like, that only the rental agent was able to find them, and she's back in New York. And then Deep No is like, is that how you found us, the rental agent? And he's like, nope, we met some guy, and he told us where you were.
Took us right to you. And he goes, ouch. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch.
About that.
And I love that, too. Like, he's like, well, the only person who knows is the rental agent, and she's back in New York, where the bad guys are. What harm could that be? Holy shit, dude. If they ever found out who the rental agent was, there it is. There it is. What are you talking about that there's nothing to worry? What?
What's the line? He says, those New York hoodlums can't find their way north of Westport without a compass, he said. It's like, oh, Jesus. Oh, Tower. Oh, you're a moron.
He doesn't have, like, for somebody who collects books, and most of those books appear to be fiction, he has got zero imagination or understanding of the, like, capacity of bad people.
And no fucking common sense. Like, maybe he thinks it's all fiction.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe that is what it is that it's, like, just doesn't feel like reality to him at all. Which I guess I can understand to a degree, but, like, if anything, most people feel that kind of thing feels more like reality because it seems like it happens all the time because they see it on TV all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but what kills me about it is that it's not like he's been sheltered. Like, he's had guns pointed to his head by these people.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they were pouring gasoline on him last time we saw this guy.
Yep, you're right.
So, it's like, you don't really... I know I'm the one who said it, but it's like, you don't really get the excuse of being out of touch and, like, not really understanding that this shit really happens in the real world. Like, he's experienced it.
Yeah.
So...
when you're right, you're right.
Roland, asks Deep No if he's a lawyer. He's like, I understand you're a lawyer. A script, as he puts it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to need you to draw up the papers that we're going to use for, Calvin to sell us that lot with the rose in it. To which Deep No replies, so he doesn't want to sign the deed over?
Okay. Do you think Aaron and Calvin are involved?
And I do.
Okay. That's the impression that I get also. It's like, it's not really that it matters, like, whether or not it's just a friendship or whether or not it's a romantic relationship. I appreciate that Aaron he's able to, like, tell them what Calvin is saying, and then he's also able to tell them how Calvin actually feels.
Yeah.
Like, he seems to be... It's almost like they probably pair well together because Aaron performs the act of being self-aware on Calvin's behalf.
Yeah.
Because Calvin just can't be bothered with his own self-awareness. So Aaron's going to go ahead and do that part.
Yeah,
for both of us.
The way that their relationship kind of expresses itself in this chapter in particular suggests a degree of intimacy to me. Like, and just the extent to which Aaron understands him, the way that Tower reacts when Aaron starts giving him, like doing his little intervention or whatever. All of it really suggests a romantic relationship to me. I could be wrong about that, but that is the feeling that I get.
No, I think I agree with that. But yeah, I like the fact that we were just saying like he is not going to sign it over.
Right.
And not only did he like make a verbal contract, he also, it was like in this will. And the fact that Eddie was able to tell him the thing is a code that's like practically supernatural signal.
Yeah.
And the fact that he would flout this is just beyond Eddie's comprehension.
He said
he can't
He said it was a trick any street corner magician could do. It's like real. Like this is so deep in the Nile that.
This is really something.
Did I say the Nile? In denial. Not the Nile. I mean, he's metaphorically deep in the Nile, but... and
I think this is why it's so frustrating, is that it does feel really believable that somebody would be able to tell themselves all kinds of garbage to talk themselves out of something that they really just didn't want to do anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
shit, I do that.
Oh, yeah, totally. Totally. So it's, it's just, he is particularly well written.
Yeah, I agree.
God, I could kill him.
I think that's why it feels like he's such a real person to such an extent, is because, like, every nuance of him makes so much sense.
Right? Yeah.
And, Deep Nose is like, you know what? He has issues letting go of things. Like, he just does. He should be rich. He should be the greatest book dealer in New York, in the country. But he can't let shit go. He can't give things away. Or even sell them.
Oh, man. That is such a, like... It's infuriating, but also it's, like, so sad in its own way that we really often are our own worst enemies when it comes to things.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea that he could be the best, he could be filthy rich, he could be a person that everybody knows and goes to, and his own obsession for no reason is standing in the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I just feel for him on that one just a little bit, because I get it, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely get it. It's just like, it's really frustrating seeing someone play out the bad behavior when it's not you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So Roland is like, I love the part where Deep Nose like, well, he thinks you're gonna steal it from him. And Roland says, does he know better in his secret heart? And this is the part that really convinces me they're involved, is like, Deep Nose like, I don't really understand what, and Roland's like, yes you do, answer the question. Like, in his heart, does he know better?
Yeah, and then Aaron's like, yeah, I think he does.
Yeah.
Aaron tries to be like, what? What?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roland does not have time for this bullshit, dude. Answer the goddamn question.
Yeah, so Roland says, just draw up the paper, we'll convince him. Like, don't worry about that. And this is when Cal Tower shows up in his fucking rental car.
Oh my God.
With his bag of books that he found. And walks in, like, just stomps inside, calling out for Aaron, telling him about all the cool books he found.
This asshole blames Eddie for himself not having insurance on his
Oh my god, that's so
bookstore
good.
that
So
burned down.
good.
He says through an oversight, it's uninsured.
Oh,
Just through an oversight.
And
that
Deep No is like, you mean when you when you stopped paying for the insurance? So you
Deep
could
Note
buy
to
more
the
books?
rescue, my man. I fucking felt like I could have kissed the man when he said that. I was so glad that he was calling him out in front of the two of them. And the way that Calvin looks at him like he cannot believe that he would throw him out under the bus like that. Oh, it's great. It's very satisfying. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah, he starts off by saying he sees Roland and Eddie, and he's like, looks at Eddie, he's like, you, and Eddie's like, yeah, it's me. And he starts talking about, like, the last time they met, and the first thing Tower does is laughs and says, oh, I really think you exaggerated the seriousness of that situation. Like, that is fucking delusional.
Yep.
And then he's like not letting them get any words out. He's saying like, I want you to get out of here, and you have some of my books, and I want my books back, and you know.
He keeps doing shit. Like, later, he tries to act like, well, I sure hope you took care of them because they're all I have now. And Aaron has to be like, you know, except for the $120,000 worth of other books you fucking have.
Well, at this point, when he says, when he insists on the books back, this is when Deep No says, shut up, Cal.
Yes.
And Tower's like, what? And he says, stop squirming. You've earned this scolding, and you know it. If you're lucky, a scolding is all it will be. So shut up, and for once in your life, take it like a man. And Roland says, hear him very well.
Oh, Roland is so pleased. I love it. I love that Roland is just like, thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am just... I was infuriated with this guy, like, anyway, but I just cannot get over how much Eddie, throughout this, can't make eye contact because he's afraid if he looks at this guy's face, he's gonna lose it.
Yeah.
He is clenching his fist that his nails are, like, biting into his hands and bleeding. He's biting his tongue at one point so hard that his tongue starts bleeding.
Yeah.
He's almost shaking. Like,
I mean, he's crying at one point.
yeah. I just... Oh, it's taking everything he has. Oh, man. I'm sorry, Eddie. But, like, frankly, the only reason that I'm glad that they didn't kill him is for Aaron's sake. And for Father Callahan 4 years from now.
I mean, I feel like Aaron saves his ass right here.
Yes.
Like, if Aaron doesn't take his side, then, I mean, I can... it's like, I don't know, drop the papers at gunpoint and then we're gonna kill you anyway. Like, you know.
True.
And Eddie is, like, just getting progressively... He's talking about the two women that died in the shop because Tower doesn't believe that Balazar's boys are here, and he's
that
like,
one got to me a lot actually
Yeah.
because it didn't even occur to me that they basically died because he's an idiot. And once Eddie put it in those terms, I was like, "Fuck, you're right, dude."
Eddie has a feeling that Mia is the reason that Jack and Alini knew where they were. Mm-hmm. But his point stands, which is that they might not even have needed her.
True.
Like, they may have just known because you were being so fucking stupid.
Yeah, I feel like, because I had said when they're talking to John earlier, like, well, they could have found him if they just asked somebody in town. But they didn't need to, as far as they knew. They had the information handed to them that they thought they needed.
Right.
From Mia.
Yeah.
So... I think what you're saying is exactly right, that if Mia had not given them that information, they could have found Calvin probably faster. Mia, if anything, distracted them from actually finding Calvin right away.
Yeah.
Because they got sort of put off the scent by going after Roland and Eddie first.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that.
So,
but yeah, if not for Mia, they might have already been there.
Did a favor. Yeah.
That's funny.
So fuck you again, Calvin. Fuck you very well.
Fuck you very well. I like that. At this point, Eddie realizes why Roland has left this up to him. Right. And it's because Eddie understands the mindset of the junkie so well.
Yeah, he does. I mean, you know, he's not wrong. It's just, it's a lot of trust that Roland has put into Eddie, believing that he'll be able to keep himself from killing this guy outright.
Yeah.
And he's only just manages. I feel like almost part of the reason that he only just manages is because of the fact that Roland doesn't step in, and that by not stepping in, he is indicating that he believes Eddie is capable of controlling himself. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if Roland weren't there to basically tell Eddie, I believe in you, you can do this, Eddie might have just let himself lose it.
Yeah.
You know, because he was just like, that's something that I've noticed, like, as somebody who, I have this weird thing where I can either push myself too hard, or I get convinced that I'm going to push myself too hard, and so I shouldn't keep pushing it because I'm so used to overdoing it. That there are times where I'll be working with somebody, and oftentimes it's a physical thing where I'm working with like a trainer or a teacher or something like that. And them being like, I know that you can do better than this, is the thing that gets me to like do that extra last set or what. Like, yeah. It's not, I couldn't have done it. I know I wouldn't have done it, at least. Even if I could have, I wouldn't have. If they had not been there telling me, you can. Stop fucking around. You
right.
know?
I mean, and it's one of the great things about the relationship between Roland and Eddie, you know, as opposed to the one between, like, Eddie and Susannah. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, it's one thing, and I think this happens a lot with romantic partners, you know, which is why one of the reasons I think Aaron is being so brave in this scene. It's one thing to say, you know, like, I love you, and I love you the way you are, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, you're not perfect, but I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna judge you.
Right.
And it's another thing to say, I'm not judging, but I do know you can be better.
Right.
Like, I do really believe that you can do better. And that, I don't know, I think that's much more of a mentor thing. It's much more of a parent thing. You know, I'm not sure that can come from your romantic partner without it fucking something up, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think
so.
Yeah, I think that there's like, you're right. There's a certain amount of you let your partner see your own self-loathing more than like you let other people in your life see it. So I feel like it seems like more of a betrayal if somebody that you've let yourself be really vulnerable with, like, is like, you can do better than this though, even if they mean it well. And it's not like it can't be done, but it does take a certain, it not only takes a certain amount of finesse, but it takes the other person being prepared to hear that. Yeah. And Calvin is certainly not fucking in that frame of mind. So,
well, because it's so easy. It'd be so easy to hear that from someone, be like, well, you know what, you can leave. Mm-hmm. You know. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that Deepno is so sympathetic in this scene. Yeah. Is because, like, even if he's not romantically involved, even if they're just really good friends, you know, like, for him to be able to be like, no, you're going to hear this, and you're going to do better. You know, it's pretty great, especially with Calvin screaming, you're a liar, I deny everything you say. You know,
that's my favorite part, is that he just keeps saying, I deny it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is the correct word for what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah.
I deny it. Shut up.
And Eddie says, give it up. Just once listen to the better angel instead of to the other one. That other one hates you, Cal. It only wants to kill you. Believe me, I know.
And that seems to kind of get his attention a little bit.
It does, yeah.
I won't say it snaps him out of it, but it does something.
Yeah, that and Aaron saying that he thinks... I think he's giving you a chance to redeem the purpose of your life.
That is a good line, huh?
Yeah.
I like that one.
And that's when Tower looks at Roland and is like, you're Roland of Gilead? And Roland's like, yeah. And they go through all these questions. Like, apparently Tower knows way more about this whole thing than he was letting on. Mm-hmm. And Roland calmly answers all of his questions to ensure that his identity is accepted. And then Tower says something in this other weird language, and Roland replies to it. Which at first I was like, I honestly had a gut reaction of like, oh god, he's talking another language, of course it is. And I'm like, dude, this guy's a total nerd. He probably knows fucking Klingon, or would.
Oh my god.
You know, like...
Wouldn't it be amazing if, like, was it his uncle that left him that note?
I think so. Yeah.
If his uncle, like, taught him this speech and was like, oh yeah, it's Klingon, you know, like from Star Trek. And the guy that you're going to meet in 60 years speaks Klingon, so be ready. Oh my god, that would be so... I would love it.
I think the time frame's a little bit off, but still it'd be great. It'd be better if he said Elvish, like from Tolkien.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
So then, after Roland responds in the same language, Tower says, I've been a fool, starts to cry, and asks Roland to come outside and talk to him for a little while.
I'm just so cranky with him that I just cannot. Even though I should be like, oh, thank God he's coming around. I'm like, no, fuck you, dude. Fuck you forever.
no forgiveness for you.
No, absolutely fucking not. You don't deserve it. Get out. Oh, he makes me very angry.
Well, while they're chatting, Deepno takes Eddie into the bathroom to find some Percocets. Or in the medicine chest, I guess, not the bathroom. That's just where I think of medicine as always being.
Wait. Say that again? You think of medicine as being where?
The bathroom.
Oh yeah, that's fine. No, I get that. Okay.
Yeah. So basically Eddie's attention has gone back to the fact that he's got a bullet in his leg that has to come out.
As it would.
Yeah. And he takes the Percocets, and they start talking about the fact that Eddie sounds a lot more like Deepno and Tower than he does like Roland.
Yeah.
And Eddie says, yeah, well, that's because I grew up in Brooklyn, in Co-op City. And Deepno says, Co-op City's in the Bronx, bro.
Yeah, he kind of loses it for a second there.
Now, my understanding, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but my understanding of this is that this is King essentially admitting that he just fucked it up before.
Is it?
Yeah, I think people got to him.
Brilliant.
And said, hey man, just so you know, Co-op City isn't in Brooklyn, and he wrote it into the scene and made it part of the whole, like, key world versus other worlds type deal.
Oh my god.
I don't
know why my respect for him is just skyrocketed, but it just, like, game recognized game, man. Oh, no, it's a whole other world. Don't worry about it. It's different. Oh, genius. I love it.
Yeah, I'm trying to... I'm going to see if I can look around and see if I can find the confirmation on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. At least that's what I read. So that's the rumor, which, if it's true, is
the best thing I ever heard.
It's tremendous. But this really shakes Eddie up, of course, you know? Mm-hmm. And it really gets him thinking about the differences between worlds. And because he is, as he himself says, he is the key maker. You know, he is fucking Rick Moranis in Ghostbusters, right?
Right.
And he understands that he's from a different world that's not the real world. It's not the key world.
Yeah.
And in the key world, Co-op City's in the Bronx, and you know, the writer of Charlie the Choo Choo is Claudia Inez Bachman, right? And like all these things. And he also recognizes that there's a point where Callahan passed between them somehow at the kid's funeral.
Right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So yeah, he's starting to make things click, and that continues throughout this chapter as he's getting the bullet drawn out of him. But first Tower has to actually sign the document, which takes a minute.
This fucking guy. Even after all of this motherfucker can't just sign a fucking piece of paper. I hate him. I hate him. I hate his ass. Yeah, he's just... I mean, and I knew he was going to do it. I knew that he was going to sign it. I wasn't worried.
Right.
But I do kind of appreciate that that King has this one last moment, that he doesn't just overcome this lifelong weird attachment problem that he has.
Yeah,
it still takes this like massive push at the end, you know?
It lends some realism for sure.
It does.
And I love the thing. It's like, you know, you get a junkie to like flush their heroin or whatever.
Yes.
And like the first thing they're going to do is like reach into the toilet right away and try to get it back. So the first thing he does, you know, as soon as he signs it, there, I'm a pauper. Give me my $1. I promised $1. I feel the need to take a shit coming on, and I need something to wipe my ass with.
Oh my god, he is the biggest drama queen I've ever met in my life. And I haven't even met him. That's how bad it is.
I mean, you kind of have.
I guess.
I mean, you've met him in a certain way.
Oh my god, even after all this, even knowing that this is like the right thing to do, you still have the unmitigated gall to act like they pulled one over on you? The fucking nerve of this guy, man. I hate him.
Yeah. So, there's also a nice little bit here where, just to make sure, because Eddie actually said to Roland earlier, like, don't forget to tell him to save Callahan's life in the future. And Eddie confirms that it's them, or at least in his own mind confirms it by asking them about the Yiddish phrase that one of them says.
Yes.
And Deepna totally knows it, so...
I forgot all about that. I mean, like, not in this scene, but I forgot about that phrase from the original story that Father Callahan told.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, Eddie, for remembering details like that.
So, yeah, they own the fucking lot, which means they own the rose.
What?
They
Nobody owns
did
a
it.
rose.
Well, I mean, they own the lot with the rose in it.
There's an episode of Community where he's trying to, like, suck up to this girl that he knows loves horses. And he mentions it as he, like, sidles up to her at a party and says something about majestic beasts. And she's like, do you own horses? And he goes, can you ever really own a horse? That's how I feel about this.
What is that from again?
From Community.
Oh, that's right. I remember now.
Oh, God. When I was shaving and listening to the new Jay-Z, because he hears that she likes clean-shaven guys in hip-hop.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's how I put, can you ever really own the rose?
Yeah.
I'm just like, when Eddie says he didn't feel like he was ever going to see them again, I am 100% about that noise. Thank you. Please never see them again. I would
never
appreciate it. Christ.
Like, John Cullum might be back, might not be, whatever. Who cares? Fine. These guys, out.
Right?
Get out.
Get out.
So, this is the part where Roland has to draw the bullet out of Eddie's leg.
Right. This was, okay, so how about this, the Magnificent Seven thing?
How about it?
I wish that I had seen that movie so that I had, been able to put any of that together myself. Because I didn't think of any of that.
I've never seen it either.
You haven't? Okay. The
Nope.
only spaghetti western movie that I've seen was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which Owen just made me watch last year or the year before.
I actually haven't even seen that, believe it or not.
No?
I'm not a Western guy.
I went into it just kind of I won't say that I was prepared to not like it exactly, but I guess I'm more like you, or I'm just well, this isn't really my thing, but maybe it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And I was really pleasantly surprised. It was pretty awesome, to be honest.
I've heard it's great. Sharon really wants me to watch it. She likes Westerns a lot more than I do, and I think she's going to be talking me into watching a few in the fairly near future. But I think the one Western that I really remember seeing is The Searchers, and I fucking hate that movie. So
I don't think I've ever even heard of that.
It's one of the real famous John Wayne ones.
Okay, The Searchers.
Yeah, it's
one of the real famous ones, and yet I have never heard of it. How weird. Okay.
It's one. I mean, it's how many John Wayne movies can you name?
Oh, that's not the thing. I don't name things. Remember, I told you how bad I am at names.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you say a thing to me, though, I'll be like, oh, yeah. Name 2 other John Wayne movies.
I believe McClintock was John Wayne, and I know the original True Grit was John Wayne. That was the one he finally won the Oscar for. That was toward the end of his career.
Okay.
But the remake is a million years better. I've seen that one too. So I've actually seen 2 John Wayne movies, and I didn't like either of them.
Blasphemer.
Anyway, it's hard watching those now too, just because it's all about saving the helpless white lady from the evil engines. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh my god, Owen put some old fucking Bond movies on a couple months ago. I couldn't fucking do it. I could not.
Oh, man, I have a problem with those. I have a problem with those too, to be honest.
They're
fucking
dreadful.
Casino Royale, the new one, is amazing.
Oh my god, one of the best movies.
But the other James Bond movies, I'm really not meh. They're fine, I guess.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
All right, I will get started. Jesus. Let's go. We're moving on.
So you have to dig that bullet out.
So they got to dig the bullet out, and Eddie, the process of having to bite down on something while the bullet's being removed makes him think of these old westerns, which makes him realize that they have essentially just finished living out the plot of Magnificent Seven.
Oh my god.
Right down to the fact that there were 7 of them fighting.
Yeah.
And the director of the movie was named John Sturgis, a.k.a. Calibrin Sturgis.
If you guys are fans of these westerns and you guys noticed this stuff, I want to hear from you. Let me know, because that's just bonkers. I really do. I'm curious to know how many people picked up on this. Because I gotta imagine that people who are fans of those movies are often diehard fans and would remember director names and would put together the number of people. I really feel like this is something that I'm missing out on, an experience that I could have had while reading this by not being a fan of this particular genre.
Well, from Yeah, from a meta standpoint, it makes me wonder why you go that route. Like, the fact that the wolves turn out to be Doombots with lightsabers and Harry Potter snitches, like, I get that as a decision because you're introducing the whole multiple worlds thing at the end of Wolves of the Kala. But when you're writing the book, like, and maybe I, like, when I was reading the rest of this book and the seventh one, like, maybe a solution to, like, an answer to this question came to me and I've forgotten, because I do that a lot.
Okay.
But why would you do Magnificent Seven here? Like, is that a story that was dying to be retold in a weird post-apocalyptic fantasy setting? Like
that's the question that I have with a lot of what he's done. And, like, just why is it just for the funsies?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be, and that's fine. Like, I mean, I can definitely see myself, like, you know, writing something and basing it on something else, not only because, like, I don't have any fucking ideas of my own, but because, like, I want to pay tribute to something that I really love. But I'd like to think that part of my rationale for that would be it was something that, like, people haven't heard of a lot. Mm-hmm. You know, not like the Magnificent Seven. That's fucking famous.
Yeah.
But then again, we both admitted to not having seen it, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm wondering how much, like, he took
what do you
into
give me that
account
look for? Sorry, Sharon's giving me a look because I haven't seen Magnificent Seven. Is that why? Is it good? Yeah?
Is it good? Don't ask her if it's good. What is she gonna say?
70
No.
Westerns, though, at a minimum, so.
She said
right.
she's seen like 70 westerns. But, yeah, anyway. So
I'm
you
just
were
wondering how much he's taking into account the ages of the people who were going to be reading this book. Like, did he think that most people wouldn't get the references, or was he, like, hoping that they would?
That's an
I don't
interesting
know.
question. Like, what's the demographic for this series? Anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but it is something, like, and I'm not even, because I don't feel like when you said, is that a story that was dying to be retold? It doesn't feel like a retell, right? Like, I don't know, though, does it? Because maybe it just doesn't, because I haven't seen
To the extent that I know anything about the Magnificent Seven, what I know about it is that it's a story about 7 people who, like, save a town from some sort of bad thing. And, you know, so, like, the bare bones wise, it's there. He made it fit into the Dark Tower story.
Right.
But, like, it's a story about 7 people, 7 gunslingers, you know, tearing up, you know, saving a town from villains. I also like he gets more detailed here, Eddie does. He's like,
Right.
Once you saw the basic pattern, you couldn't unsee it, could you? Roland was the hero of the piece, the grizzled old warrior who'd be played by some grizzled but vital star like Paul Newman, or maybe Eastwood in the Hollywood version, or Idris Elba, who knows? That last part's not in the book, by the way. He himself was the young buck, played by the hot young boy star of the moment. Tom Cruise, Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Idris Elba, someone like that.
Rob Lowe. Get out of here.
I don't know. I can see Idris Elba as both the grizzled older guy and the hot young guy. Is that weird?
Yes. He has that power.
He is the alpha and the omega of manhood.
Oh my god, that man, swear to god, he is fine as hell. Ugh.
Yeah. You see the video about him learning to kickbox?
Don't even. Just don't.
Oh my god.
Yes, I have.
I have to.
I'm gonna get really distracted now, and you're gonna, like, need to finish the show without me, so stay on task.
So anyway, the bottom line of all this is that Eddie is, like, starting to realize the truth of this whole, I am a... Oh, it's even here! Holy shit, it's even here!
What?
I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that I was raised in Brooklyn simply because of some writer's mistake. Something that will eventually be fixed in the second draft.
Oh my god! I didn't even catch that! This guy's balls, man. Wow.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
That is
So
that
good.
is ballsy. Well, shit.
So, after all this is over, Eddie wants to talk about Stephen King.
Right.
And,
of course. And he wants to go... What is it that Roland calls him? The story spinner? Something like that.
I'll find it in a minute.
He says something like, if you insist that we meet the story spinner. And I was like, God damn, that is a good name. Ah!
What was that?
Sorry, I opened a tab and my computer started to autoplay an ad. And if that ever happens while I'm recording with you on Skype, my headphones are plugged in, so nobody can hear that. But it just happened, and I'm plugged into the phone because Skype was not working properly.
Right.
So it played out loud like a monster. Yeah, sorry. That was a Geico
ad. You're fine. So anyway, so they're talking about Stephen King. Yeah, he says, I've been told he lives close to here. I've picked up 2 copies of Lot and also 3 copies of his first novel, Carrie. I was hoping to take a trip to Bridgeton and get them signed. I suppose now that won't happen.
Yeah, that's the real thing you should be thinking about here, man. It's how you won't get your goddamn book signed. You know what?
Right.
I hope somebody signs your book. It sounds like a threat. Gonna get your book signed, Padre.
He says that the author of the book is very young and not very well known. Mm-hmm. He may amount to something one day, or he may not. That's factually correct. But he says this one is valuable because the first edition was only 7,500 copies, and almost all of them sold in New England, because he's a local guy. Interesting. As so often happens, the book's value was created entirely by accident. A local chain decided to promote it heavily. They even produced a TV commercial, which is almost unheard of at the local retail level, and it worked. Bookland of Maine ordered 5,000 copies of the first edition, almost 70%, and sold nearly every single one. Also, as with the Hogan, there were misprints in the front matter. Not the title, but on the flap. You can tell an authentic first of Salem's Lot by the clipped price. At the last minute, Doubleday decided to raise the price from $7.95 to $8.95, and by the name of the priest in the flap copy, he says. Which is Father Cody, the name of the actual town's doctor, as opposed to Father Callahan.
Now, listen. Is Stephen King trying to, get people to go hunt down books? Is he trying to, bump his own worth within his own book? Is that what's happening here? Because that's what it feels like is happening here.
It almost feels to me like he's going hey, this weird shit really does happen, and there's a good reason for them to be talking about me.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, you would think this is, I haven't looked it up, but you would assume this is true, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
If he made another mistake, I would never stop laughing.
If he got all this wrong, or even worse, just made it up. Right?
I mean, that would be kind of classic. But, yeah, he's, it's so precious. Isn't it? To put this information in about yourself.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I'm really torn between just being impressed and being disgusted. I can't decide which one I'm feeling. And not only that, but it's there's just a real consistency here too, because I've talked before about the way that, and I'm not sure exactly how much I went into it, but when I covered Bag of Bones, there's like the whole first half of that book is basically King writing obliquely about a conflict that he had with his own publisher while he was writing like the book. Like it's him. He like the main character is a struggling author with writer's block, and details like his frustrations with his publisher, who's very demanding and treats him like a cash cow without really like any respect for the work that he's doing. And that's the first half of a book that's supposed to be a ghost story. And I feel like King just doesn't know how to like step out of his shit a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, but also, is that part of his charm? Is that what we like about him? Is that something that we kind of almost feel like we're in on the joke, so it appeals to us?
I think so. I'm reminded of like Bill Watterson rather.
Okay.
The guy who wrote Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
And Calvin and Hobbes, like there's one specific collection of Calvin and Hobbes strips where almost every strip has a little like piece of commentary by him. Like it's like his annotated version.
Okay.
And so many of his strips like came from his own struggles with like his publishers, with the people who wanted to license his stuff, with the newspapers, you know what I mean? So it's like, and you wouldn't necessarily know it because those, like, he illustrates other more general points through that lens.
Okay.
But, I don't know. I think it's a little bit part of the charm. I think it's, I feel like it's a your mileage may vary thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
where it's like, fair. This guy, the thing that he's doing is he's slipping in stuff about himself. And, if you're cool with that, if you're cool with, like, learning a little bit more about the author and, like, having him kind of wink at you, then you won't have a problem with it. And if that takes you out of the story, then you're going to have a problem with it. You know what I mean?
I guess when it, like, with Bag of Bones, at least it felt like I saw that was going on from the start, or I didn't know the background of the deal with his publisher as much, but it's hard to not have the book be about a writer who's fairly well known with writer's block and not know, okay, this is probably somewhat autobiographical. But
right.
With this series, it feels it does take me out of it because it seems like it's coming out of nowhere all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. Like we just had that little bit of a thing where we get a taste that Roland has read something that's disturbed him from a book. We don't get to hear the title of the book. We don't get to see anything about it. Everything that points to King has happened in this book here, right now.
Yeah, except like the very end of Wolves, right?
I mean, is it at the end of Wolves? I thought it was at the beginning of this book that we get to, like, find out what was actually happening in that book.
It's the very last chapter of Wolves that we first see that it's Salem's Lot by Stephen King that they have.
I didn't even realize that.
But one of the reasons I wanted to do the read aloud with that one, you know what I mean? The live read.
Oh, right. And then I made the fwap, fwap, fwap sound.
Well, as you're perfectly justified making that sound. I mean, it is. But, like, that's the kind of writer that King is. We've talked about it before. How many of his protagonists are fucking writers? Mm-hmm. Like, several of them. He has a personal connection with almost every hero of his stories, I would say. So, that's just part of his style. And it is more blatant here than it is in a lot of his other stuff. Like, they're using his name, for God's sakes. And it definitely comes out of nowhere. But, but that's still, I still chalk that up a little bit to King being king.
Yeah, okay. All right.
But at any rate, this is also the part right here after they have this conversation about his why his books are rare. This is the part where Aaron says, "Hey, before you go, let me give you the rest of my Percocet, since you're gonna need it."
Yeah.
And Eddie's like, "You know what? No, thanks though."
I don't like the amount of regret here, but at least he turned it down.
Eddie thought of the speech he'd made to Tower, all that poetic stuff about how Calvin was eating a bitter meal. It was true, poetic or not, but that apparently wouldn't stop Eddie from sitting back down to that same dinner himself. First a few Percodan, then a few Percocet, both of them too much like horse for comfort. Mm-hmm. So how long would it be before he got tired of kissing his sister and started looking for some real pain relief?
Yeah, what's that? Kissing
What?
his sister. Like, I get what he's saying there, but is that a saying?
I don't know.
I stopped for a second and was like, wait, what? Oh, it's a metaphor. Like, I just had a second of just being really confused.
Like, Eddie, are you okay? Your sister's dead, man.
What's going on over there? But, yeah.
According to Urban Dictionary, it's an expression used when, like, for something that's not exciting.
Oh,
like,
okay.
You know,
So
kind of meh, kind of so-so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, kissing your sister, you know. It's not the best, but it's not the worst.
I hate you so much. Is Sharon there? Sharon!
She is. Yeah.
What do you think of this?
She's giving me a really horrified expression right now. Actually, she started doing that before you asked if she was here. Have you ever heard of the expression, kissing your sister, babe?
No.
No?
When you said that, I was like, is that what's in the book? What?
Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's right here.
No, but
it's on the internet, too.
I wasn't sure if he was actually kissing his sister.
Oh, no.
I've never heard of that turn of phrase.
No, his sister's dead.
That's even worse then.
Yeah, just dug her up, started kissing her.
Like, that's creepy now. Fucking creepy now.
Alright. So he makes the right choice here, Eddie does. And, says we're going to Bridgeton, and we can pick up some aspirin on the way. And Roland's obvious affection for the concept of aspirin is the most adorable thing he's ever done.
Isn't it the cutest?
By the way.
I loved that moment because I forgot that he had even, like, tried it before. That was
He's
such
like,
a cute
aw,
detail.
Aston.
Yeah, bless his heart.
I like that stuff. So, yeah, so they start getting ready to leave. Roland's like, I don't know why you want to go see this tail spinner, as he calls him. But it's fine, we can do it. He says that, that Eddie's plan is to go to Bridgeton and see Stephen King for why he doesn't know. And then they're going to go out to, what was it, Turtleback Lane?
Yeah.
Which is where...
Turtleback Lane.
Oh, shit.
In Lovell.
In Lovell, yep.
Okay, calm down, Steven. I get it. Jesus.
This is where John Cullum told them earlier that the majority of the walk-in events were kind of centered around this location, which, man, it was a good thing for them that he just had that information on the tip of his tongue. And Eddie also, this is about the point where he gets the message from Susannah. Saying that
I forgot
she
all
was
about this.
Trapped, basically.
Yeah, and he's telling her to try and draw everything out as much as she can.
Yeah. And then, then Roland says, all right, you two motherfuckers, it's time for you to leave.
Amen.
Tower bristled. Eddie could have predicted it. Go now? You must be joking. I have a list of almost a dozen people in the area who collect books. Buy, sell, trade. Some know what they're doing, but others... He made a clipping gesture as if shearing an invisible sheep.
What a fucking scumbag.
Get out!
Like, not only is it just ridiculous that this is your priority, but also you're like, well, there's tons of people left to fuck over still. What do you mean leave? Like, oh, gross, dude.
God. You put it that way and it makes it sound like exactly as bad as it is. It's like, you have any idea how much money I can be made by stepping on these people's necks?
Exactly. Like, oh, lovely, lovely New Yorker coming in and just ruining everyone. Appreciate it. You know what?
So...
Kill him. I stand by it. I still say it. Just kill him. I hate it.
And he's like, yeah, there'll be people you can screw over in Vermont. Go out there. And Aaron, of course, is the voice of reason and says, yes, we will leave. Thank you.
Right? Thank God. Appreciate you, Aaron.
Yeah. And Deepno makes some noise here, too, about not having much longer left to live. And Eddie says, I have good reason to believe you got at least another 4 years in you, which is nice of him to say.
I appreciated that a lot. Aaron deserves some sort of bone after putting up with all this and taking their side and everything. Like, yeah, appreciated that.
Yeah, for sure. And then Eddie remembers something, which is some other way he can give back to the two of them. Tower is still grumbling about how store gone, property gone, about to be run off the first real vacation I've had in 10 years. It's like, dude.
Oh my God.
Dude. But Eddie is about to do them a big favor anyway. Because he remembers, back in the day... What are you doing?
He's doing backflips.
Oh my God. Anyway. He remembers back in the day when Henry told him about lemons.
This killed me.
It killed Eddie, too.
And I know why Eddie didn't say anything, and I get it, but I really wish that he had said something.
Oh, man.
Because I just... Ugh. But
Didn't they teach you anything in school, bro? Lemons are these little animals that live over in Switzerland or someplace like that.
Oh my God.
And every now and then, I think it's every 10 years, I'm not sure, they get suicidal and throw themselves off the cliffs. And, like, little child Eddie is trying so hard not to bust a gut. And he's like, oh, those lemons. I thought you meant the ones you used to make lemonade.
This was like the moment where Luke says to Rey, wow, amazing. Everything you just said is wrong. Like,
oh, man. Yeah.
It's just from beginning to end, you're so wrong. So wrong. Oh my God, he's killing me.
I'm sorry, now I'm thinking about the scene in that movie where she's reaching out her hand to feel the force and he starts tickling her fingers.
Oh my God!
It's my favorite thing.
I can feel it. Can you?
Can you feel it?
Yes, it's just, and then he just smacks her. Oh God, it's so good. That movie was so good.
It really was, and fuck anyone who doesn't like it. I'm sorry, guys.
Honestly, if you didn't, I don't even know what to say to you.
Yeah. But the point of all this is that what Henry was talking about was that people are rushing at this Microsoft stock, like lemons rushing off a cliff. But back in 82, man, that was the time to get on board with Microsoft, because you could buy that shit for cheap. So, Eddie remembers this and relays that to Calvin and Aaron and says, hey, 1982, buy that shit up.
And fucking Calvin is just so petty and bitter at Eddie that he won't even listen. Which, you know, once the time comes, I bet he will. But at the moment, he can't even give him the satisfaction of a thank you. I'll take it under advisement. He can't even do that, you know?
Yeah.
God, you know, just stop giving him favors. Stop it, Eddie. Just let them deal with their shit and sit there in their wrongness.
Yeah, and for a minute he's like, man, like if that wasn't even the same world, like maybe there's no Bill Gates here. Mm-hmm. You know? And then it says, in one way, he didn't even care. Calvin Tower was, in many respects, a total shithead.
Yep.
On the other
Correct.
hand, Tower had stood up to Andolini and Balazar for as long as he had to. He'd held on to the vacant lot, and now Roland had the bill of sale in his pocket. They owed Tower a fair return for what he'd sold them. It had nothing to do with how much or how little they liked the guy, which was probably a good thing for old Cal. A very good thing, I might add.
I mean, I guess.
I love this so much.
I just
You're
like the way that he's like, well, he stood up to them for as long as he had to. He refused to sell to them, just like he was refusing to sell to you, the people that he was supposed to sell to, according to the will.
Right.
So it's not really him being brave or strong or
Yeah.
sticking to his word. It is that he is just a shitty, grasping, greedy person. That's it. I don't see that he gets rewarded with shares from Microsoft for that, but whatever, fine, sure. Where are my
Yeah.
shares, goddammit? That's what I want to know.
Right? I know. Anyway. So yeah, that's basically the end. Eddie and Roland drive off, and Eddie says, it's the end game, or Roland says, it's the end game now. All I've worked for and waited for all the long years. The end is coming. I feel it. Don't you? And Eddie nods and says, yeah, but we've got another big-ass book before that, so, no, he doesn't actually say that, but it's in here somewhere.
Lol.
Anyway. So, yeah, they talk a little bit about Susannah, and the baby's still coming. They don't know where Jake or Father Callahan are. And they hope they're all okay. The end.
The way you ended that was so, like... It was as if you were writing it, and then you just kind of, like, ran out of interest. And they're just hoping that they're all okay.
I mean, it's a kind of... I mean, it's not like it's a awful note to go out on, but it's like there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't fault you for why you did it. It was just this is the tone of it happening that kind of took me by surprise all of a sudden.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that next chapter we'll get with Jake and Callahan and find out what the hell is they're doing, because Eddie's concerned because they went over at night, he could tell. And
Yeah.
it's daytime where Mia and Susannah are.
And they're in New York, and as we all know, night is when the chuds come out.
The Chuds, the
So
the Swedish dudes who really need consistent bowel movements, whatever.
So yeah,
All right.
chapter 10 is called Susannah Mio Divided Your Lamine, and we will do that one next week.
Whee! All right, everybody. I'm just going to read new patrons real quick. This week we have Haney Cinco. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to pull this up. Oh, and this name. Jacolos McTavish. Is that a name or what?
That's amazing.
Oh, shit. Jacolos? High five.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job having a great name there, buddy.
Good job. But yeah, those are the only two new patrons we've got this week. But welcome to both of you. Thank you very much for pledging and being awesome.
His name is Jacolos, or her name is Jacolos what?
McTavish.
McTavish. Interesting. All right.
Good one, right?
Yeah, because like the first name seems almost Greek, but I don't feel like that's a Greek surname.
I mean, maybe it's a marriage thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
You know,
Anyway.
marriage things. How that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, I do. I do indeed.
Well, new patrons, don't forget to join us in the patrons group on Facebook, which is super, super active. And
Yeah, it is.
What'd you say?
I said, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it really is. There's a lot happening in that group. And of course, y'all know where to find us. Facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter @unspoiledshow, Instagram @unspoiledpodcast, and you can email me at unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Miles, take it away.
Oh, man. All right, well, you can find me on the Smash Fiction Podcast, which is a show that we do every Sunday. It comes out, and it's the one where we take fictional characters and put them in some kind of contest against one another and have hilarious debates about who would win. So, yeah, go listen to that if you haven't already. If you haven't already listened to the Smash Fiction podcast, go listen to the Smash Fiction podcast. We're on a new schedule now, sort of. We're doing we do 2 episodes of Smash Fic every month, and then like in between we do some other stuff. So, let's see. The most recent episode was an episode of Extraordinary League that just came out this past Sunday. And Extraordinary League is an actual play RPG where we play fictional characters in like an adventuring party, and it's super fun and really popular. And you should all listen to it because it's great. And then
great guys.
Yeah, and thank you. And then the other week we're doing some new stuff. We're kind of doing some like creative storytelling stuff, and like games, and we're still working it out. But the first episode of the kind of new format was called Collaboratory, and that is available right now on the podcast feed. We got a different kind of episode coming out in a couple weeks. This coming Sunday, we have a regular Smash Fiction episode. Well, not a regular one, I should say. We have a special sexy Smash Fiction episode coming out this coming week. Because it is a match between Kirk and Spock as a team versus Frodo and Sam as a team. Speaking of, are they involved, do you think? So that's coming out this Sunday.
I love how uncomfortable you are right now. She just like kind of.
It's a little weird, but it's fine. I'm actually not on this episode, so you won't hear me if you listen next week. But I am on Smash Fiction pretty regularly, and I edit it pretty regularly. It's kind of my baby, so go listen to that. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and all kinds of shit. Oh, we have a website, smashfictionpodcast.com, so you can go check that out as well.
Yeah.
I'm also the host and producer of the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast, which comes out every Friday. And that is a show where once a month we put out the recording of a live storytelling show that we do in Tucson every month. And then every other week we put out like a 10-minute story from a previous live show that happened before the podcast existed. It's people telling stories. They're based on a theme. I've told stories on a couple of the shows. You can hear me on the podcast. If you want to know what Sharon sounds like when she's doing the podcast, she's been on Odyssey Storytelling. She's also been on Smash Fiction. She's been on 3 episodes of those. So you can find her on that. Yeah, I'm talking about you, babe. It's good. I assure you, she is exactly as beautiful as her voice sounds. So yeah, don't even worry about that. Don't you throw up at me. I've heard you talk about Owen. Don't you fucking throw up at me.
Listen, I don't know what you're talking about. Owen is sheer perfection. It's not my fault.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, so check out the Odyssey Storytelling Podcast, odysseystorytelling.com. You can follow them on Twitter as well. Universesofthemind.com is my science fiction blog, which is super active, and I post on it all the fucking time. So if you want to go on there and read the most recent post, which I believe is from September, then go right ahead. I think that's about it for now.
Whoop whoop. All right, well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.